Hello everyone, welcome to Vithi Pathshala. In this class, we would be going to study the fourth part of the fourth lesson of the economics of the 10th class. So this would be our last lesson that we would be going to do. And after that, we will be moving to the 11th and the 12th, and we will be going slow, very slow in the 11th and 12th because that is a very important part. Good evening to all of you. I hope all of you are good. Now we are doing this chapter third time. इसको हम तीसरी बार पढ़ रहे हैं. पहले दो बार हम इसको पढ़ चुके हैं. Now what would be our learning objective? Now our learning objective would be the role of the government and the development policies. Now to gain the knowledge about the tax and its types, to study how is tax levied, and to gain an insight into the black money and the tax evasion, to know the difference between the tax and other payments, then to understand the taxes and its development. So these would be the topic which we would be going to do. Now let's start with the introduction. Now what is a tax hai kya? So if we talk about what is a tax, so tax is levied by the government. Now it is a type of the money that we get from the people. It is levied by the government for the development of the state economy. So it is like a contribution by the people in the development of the state's economy. The revenue of the government, it depends upon the direct and the indirect taxes. So it depends upon two factors. Now these two factors are the direct and indirect taxes. Now direct taxes are levied on the income of the person, and the indirect taxes are levied on the goods and services. So you have to remember that the direct taxes and the indirect taxes, direct taxes, they are levied on the goods and the services. Now, other thing is that the by which the government mobilizes its financial resources. Now, the topic that we would be going to start first with is that the role of the government in the development of the policies. Now, first comes is the defense. Now, this is essential security function to protect our nation from our enemies. The union government is responsible for creating and maintaining the defense forces. Now, the example I will give you the Rafale, it was in the news also, current affairs, and do study about the Rafale, why it is important. Only four countries has this such power that the Rafale provides, and India is one of them. So these defenses, the equipments, they are bought from the money which we as the citizen pay. Then comes the foreign policy. In today's world, we need to maintain friendly relation with all other countries in the world. We should also maintain cordial economic relationship through the exports and the imports, sending and the receiving the investments and the labor. Now, this service is also provided by the union government. So, all the foreign policy that is done by the taxes that we have. Now, conduct of the periodic elections. Money huge money is spent on the conduct of the elections. That why the one country one election is the demand. So the election for the state and the Lok Sabha should be held simultaneously. That is the demand, and the present government from the past 5 years it is trying to implement that, and the policy is yet to be made in that area. Now, India is a democratic country. We elect our representative to parliament and the state assemblies. Similarly, the state government can conduct, sorry, state governments conduct election to the local bodies within the state. Here you have to remember that the election commission conducts the election of the president, vice president, Rajya Sabha election, Lok Sabha election, where and the state assemblies election, whereas the state election commission, it conducts the elections of the panchayat and the municipalities. Next is the law and order. Both the union and the state government enact numerous laws to protect our rights, properties, and to regulate our economy and society. To settle the dispute, the union government has a vibrant judicial system. State government take the responsibility for administering the police force in the respective state. Now, for example, the expenses of the judiciary are the independent and they are directly borne out of the consolidated fund of the India. Now, remember the salary of the judges, it goes from the salary of the judges of the Supreme Court is charged from the consolidated fund of the India, whereas the salary of the High Court is the consolidated fund of the state. And if we talk about the other thing, is that the only the pension is paid from the central fund of the High Court judges. Now, who appoints the judges of the High Court? President. Who and dismisses them? And then the president only. They give their resignation to the president. Now, the public administration and the provisions of the public goods. The government generally administers the economy and society through the various departments. For example, the revenue department, schools and the hospitals, rural development and urban development. The local government provide the public goods like the local roads, drainage, drinking water, and the waste collection and the disposal. Then the next comes is the redistribution of the income and the poverty alleviation government. So this example is the your PDS schemes, the food that is provided at the 1 rupee or the 2 rupee. So that comes from the money, the tax that is collected. Now, government collect the various taxes to the finance the various activities mentioned earlier. The taxes are collected in a way that the high income people can bring in more tax revenue to government than the poor. There are the some people who are exempted. There is a limit that the up to the 5 lakh, the people would be exempted. They don't have to pay the taxes. So there are the slabs of the income. So tax slabs are there. Then the government also spend money such that the poor are given the some basic necessities of the life like the food, shelter, clothing, education, healthcare, and the monthly income to the very poor persons, thus collecting taxes and the spending for the poor to reduce the poverty. Next comes is the regulate the economy. The union government through the Reserve Bank of India control money supply and control the interest rate, inflation, and the foreign exchange. So there is a monetary policy committee that we will be studying in the 11th and the 12th class in the detail when we will be doing the banking chapter. But that regulates the prices, and it is a combination of the fiscal and the monetary policy together that comes. Then, whereas if we talk about the money supply is controlled by the Reserve Bank, the currency printing power is with the Reserve Bank of India. Now, Reserve Bank of India is established under the RBI Act of the 1935. Then the main objective is to remove the too much of the fluctuation in the rates. The union government also controls the economy through various other agencies such as the Security Exchange Board of the India, SEBI, then Competition Commission of India. All the government in India run public sector enterprise to provide the important goods and the services at the affordable rates to the people. Now, there are the so many subsidies that the government provide. For example, in Delhi, government is providing the subsidy on the water and the electricity. Or if we talk about the central government is providing the subsidy on the your cylinder, home cylinder that you used, cooking cylinder, that on that it is providing. So there are the so many, and these subsidies is provided from the taxes we pay. Now, tax, the origin of the tax word tax is from the taxation. Now, which means an estimate. इसका मतलब क्या है? Estimate. Taxation is a means by which the government finance their expenditure by imposing the charges on the citizens and the corporate entities. The main purpose of the taxation is to accommodate the funds for the functioning of the government machinery. Tax has come into the forefront on the account of the new concept that is the welfare state. Whenever the word welfare state comes, you, in your mind should reflect to the go to the DPSP provision, and the Article 36 to the 51 they deals with the DPSP Part 4. So like this, your preparation should be. Now, taxes are the compulsory payment to the government without. So, remember that what are the taxes? Taxes are compulsory. So there is nothing that it is not a voluntary, it is compulsory payment to the government without the expectation of the direct return or the benefit to the taxpayer. You shouldn't get the benefit. For example, the Ambanis and the rich person, they are paying their taxes, and in return they cannot demand that the major portion of the benefit should go to them. So that should not be in return. This is a one way traffic. तो हम इसको क्या बोलेंगे, टैक्स को वन वे ट्रैफिक बोलेंगे इसको. Now, Professor Seligman also defines a tax as a compulsory contribution from a person to the government to defray the expenses incurred in the common interest of all without the reference to the special benefits conferred. Now, tax system, if we talk about, every type of the tax has some advantages and some disadvantages. हर एक टैक्स सिस्टम के कुछ जो है खूबियां होती हैं, कुछ हानियां होती हैं. Now, so we have to have a tax system that is a collection of the variety of the taxes from the Adam Smith, though we have discussed in the earlier classes. Recall the earlier Tamil Nadu SCRT class where these things have been discussed. Adam Smith, who is the father of the economics. Many economists from the Adam Smith have given the list of the canons of the taxation. Now, this a black box in the Tamil Nadu previous class books. We have done that. Now, it is important to recall those common among them from the discussion here. First comes is your the canon of the equity. Now, since the tax is a compulsory payment, tax, what is tax? Compulsory payment. All economics agree that the equity is the cardinal principle in designated the tax system. Now, the rich should pay more tax revenue to the government than the poor because rich has the more ability than the poor to pay the tax. So, equity don't relate that to the equality. There is a difference between the equity and the equality. The rich would be paying the more tax, whereas the poor, they have in compared to the rich, they would be paying the less tax. Then comes is the canon of the certainty. The government should announce in advance the tax system so that the every taxpayer will be able to calculate how much tax amount one may have to pay during a year to the government. सो एवरी ईयर द गवर्नमेंट अनाउंस दैट इन दी बजट. सो आप बजट पे निगाहें रखते हो, क्यों रखते हो निगाहें बजट पे? कि जो है आपको अपना टैक्स पता चल जाए कि आपके घर से कितना पैसा जाने वाला है आपकी जेब से. Now, canons of the economy and the convenience. If the tax is simple, then the cost of the collecting tax, that is the taxpayer cost and the tax collector cost, will be very low. Further, the tax should be collected from a person at the time he gets enough money to pay the tax. Now, this is called as the canon of the convenience. A convenient tax reduces the cost of the collecting tax. Now, uh, there is a scene that I have watched in the foreign serials from the USA. Now, in the USA, you see that those are the highly developed countries. We can say that they are so much developed. If they're the people they are paying the tax, so then the government is answerable to them. They directly say or they challenge the police person or the government that we citizen we are paying the tax, and the tax we pay from that the money is getting to you. So the tax we pay from that the salary is given to the all the government servants, or else the prime minister, president, all of them get the salary from the hard earned money that is paid in the form of the tax by the citizens. So the government is answerable to the citizens. Then comes as the canon of the productivity and the elasticity. Government should choose the tax that can get enough tax revenue to it. It should choose a few taxes that can fetch more tax revenue instead of the lot of the taxes. So कम टैक्स हो पर पैसा ज्यादा आ रहा हो, ज्यादा टैक्स हो और उसमें पैसा कम आ रहा हो, उसकी जो है कोई जरूरत नहीं है. क्योंकि ऐसा ना हो कि आप ज्यादा पैसा खर्च कर दो टैक्स कलेक्ट करने में और टैक्स बहुत कम आ रहा है. This is the canon of the productivity. Tax is paid by the people out of their incomes. Therefore, the tax system should be designed in such a way that the people automatically pay more tax revenue if their income grow. ऐसी गवर्नमेंट होनी चाहिए कि लोग आगे बढ़ के आए और वो टैक्स देने को राजी हों. But there is a statement: a man's need can end, but its greed can never end. सो एक व्यक्ति की जो है एक व्यक्ति की नीड जो है वो खत्म हो सकती है, जरूरतें खत्म हो सकती हैं, बट ग्रीड कभी खत्म नहीं होती है, लालच कभी खत्म नहीं होता है. नाउ दिस इज कॉल्ड एज द कैनन ऑफ द इलास्टिसिटी. Now, why taxes? Now, state and their functional equivalents throughout the history have the used money provided by the taxation to carry out the many functions. Some of these include the expenditure on the economic infrastructure, transportation, sanitation, public safety, education, healthcare system, to name a few. ये सब रिपीट हो रहा है, हम पहले जो है डिटेल में पढ़ चुके हैं इसको. Military, the scientific research, the culture and the arts, public works and the public insurance, and the operation of the government itself. A government's ability to raise the tax is it is called as. Now this statement is new and the important statement. The government's ability to raise the tax, उसको हम fiscal capacity बोलते हैं. वो that is the government's fiscal capacity. Now, when expenditure exceed the tax revenue, a government accumulates the debt. तो जब भी खर्चा बढ़ता है टैक्स से, मतलब कि सरकार को जितना पैसा आ रहा है उससे ज्यादा वो खर्च कर रही है, तो गवर्नमेंट पर जो है लोन हो जाएगा, डेब्ट हो जाएगा. एग्जाम्पल आपका है पाकिस्तान. Now, a portion of the tax may be used to service the past debts. So जो पैसा टैक्स में आ रहा है वो पिछला कर्जा देने में जा सकता है. Government also uses tax to fund welfare and the public services. So past debts and the fund and the welfare services. These services can include the education system, pensions for the elderly, unemployment benefit, public transportation, energy, water and waste management system, and are also common public utilities. So much money now the governments or the people's hard earned money, taxpayers' money is now spent on the COVID. Now COVID has incurred so much, so the GDP, the growth which the money which we should have used for the growth of the country's economy, it has been used in the COVID era. सो अब घर में जो एक व्यक्ति, उससे सोचो कि घर में एक व्यक्ति जो है वो बीमार हो जाता है. इफ अ पर्सन गेट इल एट द होम, सो द बजट ऑफ द मंथली बजट ऑफ द फैमिली इट डिस्टर्ब्स. सो एक घर का वो बजट जो है वो बिगड़ जाता है और बाकी जगह कटौती करनी पड़ती है जिसपे हम हेल्थ सेक्टर पर खर्च कर सके. वहीं एक कंट्री में द सेम हैपेंस एट द कंट्री लेवल. Now some has to be foregone, some expenses has to be foregone in order to provide the COVID care. सो कोविड में जो पैसा लग रहा है, हेल्थ केयर में जो पैसा लग रहा है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल वी आर कंडक्टिंग सो मच ऑफ दिस सर्वे वी आर कंडक्टिंग एंड द सो मच टेस्ट डेली इट हैज बीन डूइंग ऑन. सो जो टेस्ट आपके हर रोज हो रहे हैं उसमें पैसा खर्च होता है और वो पैसा जो है वो टैक्स पेयर का मनी है, उसको हम इकोनॉमी को डेवलपमेंट करने में लगा सकते थे, बट अल्टीमेटली वो टेस्टिंग में जा रहा है, टेस्टिंग इक्विपमेंट खरीदने में जा रहा है. और अल्टीमेटली जब बजट बिगड़ जाएगा और बजट बिगड़ने के कारण जो इकोनॉमी डाउन हो जाती है, सो हर एक चीज रिलेटेड है, ये एक साइकिल है. सो डू अंडरस्टैंड दैट. Now, taxation in the India has its roots in the period of the Manusmriti and the Arthashastra. Remember the Bali and the Bhog. Can you tell me about the Bali and the Bhog? क्या ये जो टैक्स थे बाली और भोग, आर दीज टैक्स वर वॉलेंट्री और द इनवॉलेंट्री टैक्सेस? Bali and the bhog that were taken in the Harappan civilization, were they the voluntary or the involuntary? Now, the types of the taxes are tax imposed on an individual or an organization which is paid directly is called as a direct tax बोलेंगे. Burden of a direct tax cannot be shifted. Direct tax मतलब कि आपको ही पे करना है. अगर आप पे burden है, आप किसी और पर थोप नहीं सकते हो. Now the J.S. Mill जिसको हम पढ़ते हैं political science में, a political thinker. Now he also defines. J.S. Mill is a famous political thinker and he is a libertarian. Now he defines a direct tax को define करते हैं one which is demanded from the very persons who it is intended or desired should pay it. So it is a simple definition, and some direct taxes are examples are the income tax, wealth tax, and the corporation tax. In India, income tax को introduce किया गया था सबसे पहली बार 1860 में सर जेम्स विलियम्स के द्वारा. So it was first time introduced in the India by the Sir James William in the 1860 in order to meet the losses sustained by the government in the 1857 mutiny. कैसे याद रखोगे? 1857 का विद्रोह हुआ और उस जिसमें उसमें जो घाटा होता है उसको पूरा करने के लिए सर जेम्स विल्सन ने पहली बार जो है इनकम टैक्स को लगाया था 1860 में. Now, income tax, it is the most common and the most important tax levied on an individual in the India. It is charged directly based on the income of the person. The rate at which it is charged varies depending upon the level of the income. Students are asked to search a income tax website. So this is an activity that they have given. Now next comes as the corporate tax. The tax is levied on the companies. Corporate से companies पर directly आपको समझ में आ जाएगा. Corporate tax किस पर levy होगा? Companies पर होगा. Now that exists as the separate entity from their shareholders. It is charged on the royalty. किस पर charge होगा? Royalty, the interest they gain from the sale of the capital assets located in India, fees for the technical services and the dividend. Foreign companies are taxed on the income that it arises in the India. This is an important statement. फॉरेन कंपनीज वो टैक्स पे करती हैं जिससे उनकी इनकम भारत से आ रही है. सो कैन यू टेल मी इफ द आत्मनिर्भर भारत it becomes a success, so whose income will rise? The income of the companies that are in the India, it will rise. So can you tell me though the tax share will rise or not? सो एंड सोचने की कोशिश किया करो आउट ऑफ बॉक्स. जितना बुक में दे दिया उतना नहीं, थोड़ा बाहर सोचा करो, दिमाग लगाया करो कि एनालाइज करने की पावर को अभी से जनरेट करना स्टार्ट करो. नाउ लेस देन दी 50 करोड़ 25% है. देन दी फॉरेन कंपनीज के लिए 40%. देन दी 50 करोड़ से ज्यादा टर्नओवर है तो 30% एंड दी 40%. देन कम्स इज द नेक्स्ट इज द वेल्थ टैक्स. इट इज चार्ज ऑन द बेनिफिट डिराइव्ड फ्रॉम द प्रॉपर्टी की ऑनरशिप. The same property will be taxed every year on its current market value के basis पर. The tax is levied on the individual and the company alike. Now in India, taxes are collected by all the three tiers of the government. These are the taxes that can easily collected by the union government. In India, almost all the direct taxes are collected by the union government. Taxes on the goods and the services are collected by the both the union and the state governments. The taxes on the properties are collected by the local governments. In India, we collect more tax revenue through the indirect tax than through the direct taxes. The major indirect taxes in India are the custom duty and the GST, or are the indirect taxes. Now, what are the indirect taxes? If the burden of the tax can be shifted from the one person, मतलब कि आप अपना बोझ दूसरे को दे दो टैक्स देने का, तो उसको हम इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स बोलेंगे. सो द इम्पैक्ट इज ऑन वन पर्सन while the incidence is on the other person. So this is an important line. कौन सी लाइन? ये वाली. The impact is on one person and the incidence is on the other person. Now, therefore, in the case of the indirect taxes, the person, the taxpayer is not the tax bearer. Now, remember, this is a Taxpayer is not the tax bearer. Very important statement. Now, some indirect taxes are the stamp duty, entertainment tax, excise duty, and the goods and the services tax. Stamp duty is a tax that is paid on the official document like the marriage registration document related to the property and the some contractual agreement that you do. Then the entertainment tax. Entertainment tax is a duty that is charged by the government on the any source of the entertainment provided. For example, the movie tickets, the tickets on the amusement parks and the exhibitions, even the sport event, that also as the entertainment tax. The excise duty. An excise tax is a duty on the manufactured goods levied at the moment of the manufacture rather than on the sale. So it is levied on manufacture rather than on the sale. Then excise is typically imposed in addition to the indirect tax such as the sales tax. Sales tax तो लग ही रहा है उसके अलावा excise duty भी देनी पड़ती है. Then government and the goods and the services tax, important tax. The goods and the services tax is one of the indirect tax. The GST was passed in the parliament on the 29th March 2017. The act came into the effect on the 1st July 2017. The motto is the one nation, one market and the one tax. Again from the Red Fort, the Prime Minister had given this statement, one nation, one market, one tax. Now, which country was the first country to implement the GST? It was the France. So France is much developed, and the France has been introduced. In the France it was introduced. The GST was introduced in the 1954 itself. The how are the tax levied? The tax is levied by the government progressively, proportionately, as well as the regressively. Very very important line for your exam point of view. टैक्स जो है उसको लेवी किया जाता है प्रोग्रेस, देन दूसरा प्रोपोर्शनेटली, देन रिग्रेसिवली. नाउ व्हाट इज द और द प्रोग्रेसिव टैक्स क्या होता है? व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय द प्रोग्रेसिव टैक्स? नाउ द टैक्स रेट इज वन इन विच द रेट ऑफ द टैक्सेशन इंक्रीजेस as the base increases multiplying. Now, in the case of the progressive tax, when the income increases, जब भी income बढ़ेगी तो रेट भी बढ़ेगा. इनकम बढ़ने से क्या है, आपकी इनकम बढ़ गई तो आपकी जेब में ज्यादा पैसा आ गया, तो आपके पास ज्यादा पैसा है जिसको आप दे सकते हो सरकार को टैक्स के रूप में. यू कैन गिव दैट मनी टू द गवर्नमेंट इन द फॉर्म ऑफ द टैक्स. सो टैक्स बेस इज 10,000, 10% आपके हो गया 10,000 रुपए का जो आपको टैक्स देना. 20,000 है तो 15% 3,000. सिंपल मैथमेटिक्स. एंड डू सी सेट ऑल्सो, इट इज क्वालिफाइंग बट यू हैव टू स्कोर 66.5 marks. Now proportionate taxes. Taxes levied on the goods and the services in a fixed proportion is called as the proportionate tax. So here the key word is the fixed proportion. यहाँ पे क्या याद रखना है, फिक्स्ड प्रोपोर्शन में जो लेवी होता है वो आपका प्रोपोर्शनेट टैक्स होता है. All taxpayers contribute the same proportion of their income. For example, tax base is the 10,000, 10%, 1,000. Then the 20,000 if he is earning, then he is also paying the 10%. That is 2,000 rupees he paying. Then a person who earns the 3,000, 10% of that is the 3,000. Now, what are the structure of this GST? Now, there are the three things, that is the SGST, CGST, and the IGST. State Goods and the Services Tax, that is the intra-state tax. Now, VAT, sales and the purchase tax, entertainment tax, luxury tax, and the lottery tax, and the state surcharges and the cesses. Now, yesterday itself, I told you a news from the newspaper that the government not okay that today's newspaper there is a news. Today's on the first page you there is a news that the GST council meeting held today. Now, almost the for the states, GST accounts for almost 42% of their own tax revenue, with the center yet to make the GST compensation payment for the last 4 months. So पिछले 4 महीने का compensation अभी तक दिया नहीं है, और उसके कारण क्या हो रहा है, and the states are not paying the salaries. So the compensation of the past last 4 months, many states have been forced to put on hold their capital spending and are even struggling to pay monthly salaries to the staff. So these you can mention in the negatives of the GST may, that there is a burden the so much, and the COVID has increased this burden. Now, example in the Uttar Pradesh, Telangana, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, salaries have been delayed to the staff of the educational universities. The same case is with the Delhi government. It is not able to pay the money. Now, the central goods and the services tax intra-state within the state, excise duty, service tax, countervailing duty, the central duty of the customs, surcharge, education, and the secondary, higher and secondary cess. इंटीग्रेटेड जीएसटी, that is the interstate होता है ये इंटीग्रेटेड जीएसटी. दिस देयर आर दी फोर मेजर जीएसटी रेट्स, वो आपका 5%, 12%, 18% एंड दी 28%. Almost all the necessities of the life like the vegetable, food, grains are exempted from this tax. And the third time comes is your regressive tax. It implies that the higher the tax rate of the tax, lower the income group, then in the case of the higher income groups, it is a very positive progressive group. Iska example they have given that the income increases. So they have the compared, they have given the, for example, in the progressive tax, what happens if the income increases, the tax also increases. Proportional tax, the income increases, tax जो है decrease हो जाएगा. And the regressive tax, the income increases, the tax would be the same always. Example, also they have given the sale tax and the corporate tax and the income tax. Next topic, black money. Black money is the fund earned on the black market on which the income and the other taxes have not been. So simply black money, what is black money? On the money on the which you have not paid the tax or that you have not declared to the government. The unaccounted money that is concealed from the tax administrator is called as the black money. Now, what are the causes of the black money? Now, the several sources of the black money are identified: shortage of the goods, licensing, processing proceedings, then the contribution of the industrial sector, smuggling, and the tax structure. Now, tax evasion is different, black money is different. Now, tax evasion, it is an illegal evasion. So, remember what is it? It is the illegal. Now, of the taxes by which the individual, corporations, and the trust. Now, tax evasion activities are the under reporting the income. आप अपनी income कम बता रहे हो, inflating the deductions or the expenses, then hiding the money, then the hiding interest and the offshore accounts. अपने खाते छिपा के रखे हुए हैं, अलग अलग खातों में चीजों को रख रहे हो. Then tax evasion penalty क्या होती है? If a person willfully commits the act of the tax evasion, he may face the felony charges. Tax evasion penalties include the imprisonment up to the 5 years and the higher amount of the fines. The defendant may also be ordered to pay for the cost of the prosecution. The tax evasion penalties can be harsh depending on the severity of the crime. Now, taxes and the development, the role of the taxation in the developing economies. So these are for the mains की टैक्स कैसे हेल्प करते हैं एक इकोनॉमी को डेवलपमेंट होने में. सबसे पहले रिसोर्स मोबिलाइजेशन. Now, taxes enable करते government to mobilize a substantial amount of the revenue. The tax revenue is generated by imposing the direct tax such as the personal income tax and corporate tax, and indirect taxes such as the custom duty, excise duty, etc. Reduction inequalities of the income उसको घटाकर, जैसे कि आपका आता है टैक्सेशन फॉलोज द प्रिंसिपल ऑफ द इक्विटी. द डायरेक्ट टैक्सेस आर द प्रोग्रेसिव इन नेचर एंड द सर्टेन इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस जैसे कि The taxes on the luxury good is a progressive in the nature. Then comes is the or the social welfare. Taxation generates the social welfare. Welfare state social activities they are done. Generated due to the higher tax on the certain products undesirable product जैसे कि अल्कोहल पर अब कोविड के टाइम पर इतना पैसा लिया और इतना जो है टैक्स को जो है कलेक्ट किया गया स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स के द्वारा देन सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इंटरफेयर किया गया और फिर इसको कम किया गया then regional development and foreign exchanges the taxation encourages the export and the restricts the import the generally the developing country even the developed countries do not impose the taxes on the export items. And then comes is the regional development. Taxation plays an important role in the regional development. Tax incentives, such as the tax holiday for the setting up the industries in the backward region, which includes the induces the business firms to set up the industries in the such regions. Now, control of inflation. The taxation can be used as an instrument for controlling महंगाई को कम करने के लिए टैक्स एक आपका जरिया हो सकता है through the taxation the government can control inflation by reducing the tax on the commodities. Now there is a table that they have given on the tax and the payment. What are the difference? So tax आपके compulsory होते हैं of the government without getting any directly benefit. Fee is payment for getting any. So remember article number 25 to 28 right to the religion. A state government cannot levy the tax. State government tax levy नहीं कर सकता but मंदिरों में जो है आपसे फी ली जा सकती है. A fee can be levied. Now, if the element of the revenue for the general purpose of the state predominates, the levy becomes a tax. When a fee is a payment for a specific benefit privilege, although the special to the primary purpose of the regulation in the public interest. A tax क्या है? Compulsory payment है. Then fee, what is a fee? It is a voluntary payment. If tax is imposed on a person, अगर किसी एक व्यक्ति पर अब टैक्स लगाया जा रहा है, he has to pay it, otherwise he has to be penalized. On the other hand, fee is not paid if a person do not want to get the service. अगर आपको सर्विस नहीं चाहिए, मना कर दो, आपको टैक्स देना ही नहीं, फी दे लगेगी नहीं आप पर. ना फीस कब देते हो? आप जब कोई सर्विसेज अवेल करते हो. Now, in the case the taxpayer does not expect any direct benefit, यहाँ पर कोई भी आपको बेनिफिट नहीं मिलेगा. फी पेयर कैन गेट द डायरेक्ट बेनिफिट फॉर द पेइंग द फी. एग्जांपल स्टैम्प फी, द ड्राइविंग लाइसेंस फी, गवर्नमेंट रजिस्ट्रेशन फी. मंदिरों में जाते हो आप फीस देते हो, उसके बदले में क्या मिलता है आपको? लड्डू मिलता है, प्रसाद मिलता है. So this was all in this chapter, and now we have completed your. So this chapter, fifth chapter, is only for the Tamil Nadu people, and we have completed the 10th class, and now sixth to the 10th class, your economics we have done. We have completed that also. Now the major portion is left, and the important portion we will be doing in the 11th class. 11th we will be doing this selectively because the UPSC it is concerned about your the मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक्स. यूपीएससी आपसे मैक्रो पूछता है, माइक्रो नहीं पूछता है. तो हम वो चीज नहीं पढ़ेंगे बिकॉज हमें बीए का एग्जाम नहीं देना है, हमें कॉलेज यूनिवर्सिटी का एग्जाम नहीं देना है. वी आर प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर द यूपीएससी. So the 12th class it is concerned with the more with the macro. 11th it is concerned with the micro. So the simple topics of the micro we would be doing from tomorrow, and we would be going slow. And जहां भी आपको कोई भी प्रॉब्लम हो, डाउट हो, आप मुझसे पूछ सकते हो. एंड देन वी वुड बी डूइंग द ज्योग्राफी. उसके बाद हम ज्योग्राफी का जो पार्ट बचा हुआ है उसको कंप्लीट करेंगे इकोनॉमी को खत्म होने के बाद. हिस्ट्री में आपका थोड़ा टॉपिक बचा हुआ है. एक तो वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री बची हुई है और आपका मिडिवल का दो चार चैप्टर बचे हुए हैं. उसके अलावा हिस्ट्री आपकी पूरी हो चुकी है, उसको हम बाद में करेंगे. So that was all in this class. Thank you all of you. We will be meeting tomorrow with the 11th class first chapter introduction to the micro macro economics.